The video isn't frozen. That's Raul. And Raul has lived in the United States for 10 years. And he wants to take his children on vacation. Florida, maybe Disney World. But here's the problem. He doesn't have any legal status. So for most of his time in the United States, he's made most of his decisions based on fear. Fear that if he leaves New York, he'll get arrested and turned over to ICE. If you're like Raul and have been living in the United States, making most of your decisions based on fear, you have two choices. You can continue to listen to stories about your mother's, sister's, friend's, brother's, husband, or you can watch this video where I'll reveal 2 common mistakes that most non-citizens make when they're traveling. That way, you can spot them and avoid making them in your own life. Because let's face it, all humans need a little vacation. My name is Veronica Cardenas, and I'm an immigration lawyer and founder of Humanigration, an online educational platform. I'm using my 12 years of experience as a lawyer with the Department of Homeland Security to help people like you navigate the immigration system. Because trust me when I say this, no one will care more about your case than you. I'm a close second, so let's get started. Before we talk about Raul, we should probably talk about the first common mistake that most non-citizens make when traveling. Assuming you'll be safe if you travel by bus or by train. I can see why this makes sense, right? You may be thinking, we can go to Niagara Falls, a lot of buses go there, we can stay in the United States side, we'll be safe, right? Wrong. Immigration officers, either CBP or ICE, have the authority to conduct immigration checks anywhere within 100 miles of the US border. So let's break this down a little bit. Let's see what's within 100 miles of a US border. And there's the map. You see New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Florida, and let's not forget Arizona, Texas, California. You get the point, right? And this is where things get interesting. About 200 million people, Americans and non-citizens alike, live within 100 miles of a US border. I'm going to tell you what the law says. And the law says that for an immigration officer to ask you any questions, they must have a reasonable suspicion that an immigration violation has taken place. It means that they have to have specific facts. So let's go over what some specific facts might be. Bad Bunny t-shirt? Come on, we all love Bad Bunny. Speaking Spanish? Oh no, don't even get me started. Dirty shoes? This one's a close maybe. I know it sounds silly, but let's say a CBP officer or ICE officer knows that in Mexico, people are giving this specific brand of white shoes to anyone crossing the border. And so when they stop them, they see these specific white shoes and it was tied to an investigation that was already done. That might be reasonable suspicion. That brings me to the next point. What is an immigration check? But this time I'm going to show you what that looks like. Sir, can I see your identification, please?
I have my license.
Okay, your driver's license will work. All right, sir. Where were you born?
Do I have to answer that?
Yes, sir. You have to answer that.
I don't want to answer that.
What's your immigration status?
I don't want to answer that either.
Can I see your immigration documents?
What is your reasonable suspicion for asking me these questions?
You're not required to answer any questions about an immigration violation unless you're under arrest. Most of these conversations involve consent. And consent means you're free to say no, and you're free to say, I don't want to talk about that. Sure, you can talk to the immigration official, you can spill all your guts, you can tell them that you have no status, still holding the license, you can tell them that you have no right to be in the United States, but that is entirely up to you. You do not have to answer those questions. But here's the thing, you must show identification. And technically, the law requires anyone 18 and over to carry proof of their immigration status. And you can decline the officer's questions, and if they keep pushing and expect that they might, you can always ask to call your lawyer. All right, so here's some good news. The bus or train company doesn't have to give immigration officials consent to get on board and ask its passengers their immigration status. And in fact, Greyhound has announced that it will no longer allow immigration officials to do just that. I also want you to remember that you have a choice, and that involves your consent. If an immigration official starts to ask you questions, you can kindly decline those questions. And if the immigration officer keeps going, you can always ask to speak to a lawyer. If you do get arrested, later on, if you have a lawyer and there was a violation of any of your rights, you can get that case thrown out of immigration court, and you can also sue ICE or CBP civilly. Mistake number 2, assuming you cannot fly because you have no legal status. Yes, Raul, this one is for you. You can fly with your unexpired, valid Colombian passport. You can also travel with a border crossing card, a driver's license, and an employment authorization card. TSA requires that any adult 18 and over show proof of identification, but that's not the same as proof of citizenship. They do not require that. But here's where things get tricky. Let's say Raul wants to switch plans, and instead of traveling to Florida, now he wants to go to Hawaii. Don't blame you, Raul. But here's the thing. Even though Hawaii is still in the United States, if that airplane flies anywhere outside of the United States for a pit stop, and then from there travels to Hawaii, Raul's going to have a hard time being let back into the United States. So even when you're traveling to places within the United States, you always want to make sure that any connecting flights are not outside of the United States. These issues can get really dicey, and it's always best to speak to a lawyer about your specific case. If you need help finding a lawyer, you could check out this video where I go through tips about finding the right one. And if you like this video, please leave comments below. And if you have any questions or ideas of content you would like me to do, please put that in the comments section also.